Hello everyone and welcome back. Today's video will be a bit different. It will mostly be on the Nuke compositing side rather than on the lighting or on the shading side. So in this tutorial I will show you how to more or less create this render using depth of field based on as a depth pass, and how we can grade certain elements of the render until we're happy with the comp. So this is the actual render, and then with some Nuke scripts and comping a little bit, you are able to produce this. And mostly I want to show you how you can make use of the utility passes from Arnold, which is mostly in this tutorial be concerned about the Z pass, and then all the other AOVs, which are the direct, the spec, the indirects, backlighting, and all these passes together. So let's first jump into Maya to show you my current scene. So I've got my background sky, then I've got these little soldiers which you can get from the MtoA side. Pretty straightforward. You can just go to training, I think tutorials, no, Maya, and where is it? Tutorials, learning scenes. And then all I did, I was downloading the soldiers somewhere. Where is it? These ones. So click here, then you get the as files, and from that I just moved them, populated my scene. And then these grass is Maya paint effects converted to polys, and then use XGen to populate the terrain. Nothing too fancy. This is my render cam, which looks like this. Some grass in the back and foreground, and my soldiers. So now let's jump into AOV creation. So AOVs are called arbitrary output variables, which is just a fancy word for a split up beauty render in several components. So obviously it differs from what you have in your scene. Sometimes you have refraction, then obviously you would need the refraction AOV, or whatever you will have, what else, single scatter SSS. And for this setup I have backlighting and I have SSS for the soldiers. So the first thing the thing is, now you either work with AOV surface or you work with the standard shaders. It's not recommended to mix them both. Some write differently into the AOVs, so there might be at some point mismatches or something. So try to keep one format for your render, standard shaders or surface shaders, and I'll tend to use the AOV surface shaders. So first thing, I want to have direct backlight and direct diffuse and direct spec. I don't have a second lobe, so this will render black, so I won't bother rendering it. Then I have indirect backlight, diffuse, and specular. So these three, the directs and the indirects for the same AOVs. And then at the bottom I have SSS, which is subsurface scattering. And these are my basic AOVs I want to work with. Then you have built-in ones, which are mostly for utility. These are new ones. Shadow Matte gives you like all the shadow information. We can just render this to show you how it looks like. And then we have ray count, which is quite helpful to debug your scene. So I'll show you how you can make use of that. And then you have the Z pass, which is depth information. And the other ones, we currently don't use them, or I won't use them. And then we want to add a custom one, which is a material ID pass. So we separate the soldiers from the grass from the ground, and we can write RGB into one AOV, which means for every 3 shaders you need to create a new AOV, unless you take the alpha into consideration, and you can put 4 into one. So add custom. I'll just call this material ID. Let's just call this 001. I will never create more than one in this tutorial, but anyways, this is just a naming convention. So here's the material ID, RGB only. These float closest, that's fine. So this is the generation of the AOVs. And now heading over to the hypershade, where I have my 3 shaders, soldier, grass, and ground. And to write your materials into this AOV you just created, you need to create an AI write color, which is it just writes the information into the chosen AOV from this drop-down menu. So in here I find material ID 001. The beauty is the shader, and the out color goes back into the surface shader. So you just plug in this node in between from shader to shading engine. You might call this maybe just for R, because we will just write the R color. And for the input is the color which goes into the AOV. So for the soldier, I just choose red, like so. Then I Control D for duplicate and Control D again. Call this red, green, and this one is the blue one. Change the colors accordingly, green and blue, and do the connections, beauty, out color. There we go, and the same for this guy. So saving, and let's see if it actually did work. So if I fire up the IPR, let's see what we get. Just so this is the AOVs work. So the soldiers are red. So now you have mass. If I press R, I just get the soldiers, green for the grass, and B for the terrain. So I could in comp just drive those values a bit more, just to have more control. And then obviously I've got my my older passes I have written out. So these are them. And in Nuke or whatever your compositing software is, you can combine them all together. So I will render this and then I'll see you back in Nuke. I might have cranked up the settings a bit too much, but anyways, this is my final render. And before going into Nuke, actually, I just wanted to show you how I just export this one frame. So in the file, in the Arnold render view, you have save multilayer EXR file. And I will be just using that one, and I'll just call this training. There we go, and save. So this writes all the AOVs into one EXR file. You can use that as well for Photoshop, and you need to have a plugin called Extractor where you can see all the AOVs. So going to Nuke and reading the new image by pressing R for a read node, and finding the render images training, open. Right. So this is now my render looking through an sRGB color space. So this is my actual output, which is linear, and ideally you always work in a linear workflow and you just view it in different color spaces or LUTs. So Rec 709 is a bit more crunchy than sRGB, which I mostly like to use. So I will just replicate the left side, but just for you to see how it works, I will start from scratch. So I tend to add a reformat node. It's just a habit. You don't need to do this. I just force it to be that resolution. So for instance, when you have test renders which are smaller, you see it's 480, and then you have the reformat, and then the small image gets scaled up to the same resolution. So this is one little trick I mostly use. And so the next thing is you want to create a shuffle, which means just extract, or you can just shuffle out any information from within this render. And I always press 1 and 2 to update my viewer with the current selected node. So reading the original file, you have in the top left, you have the actual AOVs which have been written out. So you can, with page up and page down, quickly see what is being exported from Arnold. Here's my material ID pass. So everything we need is here. This is the shadow pass, which whatever is fully white is shadowed, and the rest is lit. So I just wanted to show you how it looks. I won't use it. I just wanted to give you an example. So going back to RGBA, the first thing I want to do is I want to extract all the important AUVs. So the first one is my, let's just first do the directs. So direct backlight. This will be the direct diffuse, I guess. So I'll just quickly try to do this very fast because this is a workflow. Actually, you just need to do this once, and then you have your Nuke template, and you just need to switch the inputs, and you always get your proper extracted AUVs. So this is the indirect, and let's just extract these. This is the material ID, and then we copy this one more time, and this will be the ray count, and we need Z as well. So just one more time. And I guess that should be it now. So if you press L, it just arranges your nodes better. Or like I always like to keep my new graph pretty clean. So this is utility. And I can just encourage you to do the same thing, just to keep everything nice and tidy, and for other people to read it. Util, I can't. Is that better? I think so. And these are my beauty backdrops. So let's just call this one beauty. This one needs to go outside. There we go. Right, and L to organize again. Move them back in here. Make this a bit bigger. Damn it. Right, so this is the arrangement now of the graph. Let's see, we have, and ideally, all you have to do is just plus them all back together. So what I'm doing now, I'm selecting them after each other, and then I just go to merge, or just press M or merge, whatever you want to prefer. And then they just add up together. And we see we are missing an AOV. I maybe forgot to render one. Let's see what, or maybe I didn't add one. So direct backlight, direct diffuse, direct spec, right? What do we have here? Indirect backlight, indirect diffuse, indirect spec. So it seems that we're missing an AOV. It might be that we actually write into spec 2. Let's just double check what it can be. It more looks like an SSS. I think I didn't add that. Let's hope it is in this list. It is, so I just forgot that. I hope so. Let's just see if it works then. And subsurface scattering and merging this back on top. So now we have a one-to-one result of the extracted AOVs and the beauty render, which is all the ones combined. So the idea is you extract all the AOVs and then you can grade them all separately and bring them back together at some point. So I'll just make this a bit more tidy so it's easier to add nodes to the stream. Right. Okay, so this is now the color grading part, and this is the utility part. So this is the material ID, which I will use to grade certain aspects of my AOVs separately. And this is the grade for the Z pass, and this one is this is the Z, and this is the ray count. So the ray count is just a debug mode. So if you use a grade node and switch the values, adjust the values a bit, so then you can see better what it actually is. So if I hover in the image, you can see its values from 18 goes maybe up to 50. So let's just grade this from 0 to 100. And now you get a representation of ray counts. So the whiter the image, the more rays it fired and the longer it took to render. So this is a pretty nice debug mode, so you can see which areas in your image rendered the longest. And these are the ones which have indirect mostly, so indirect bounces and lots of shadow rays. So they take quite a long to render. Yeah, so this is just for debugging purposes, nothing I will use in the comp. And the other one is the Z-Pass, and I will also use a grade node just to grade the values a bit. So right in front of the camera, we have a value of, like, the smallest value is right in front of the camera, which is around 4. So we always start at 0, which is the camera position. And then we go deeper into the image, and you can see the numbers get bigger until we hit the background plane, which is infinity. So I will grade those values to be going from 0 to, let's say, 2000. And then you can see a depth pass of the Z value. So this is just grading from 0 to the background, from the foreground to the background. So you can see and I will use this to create some fog, some environment, dirt or dust into the render. Right, so these are the 3 things I want to do, and I still need to add the Z information back into my stream. Currently, I don't add it back in. So to do so, I will use a copy node. You can press K for copy, and it goes from A to B. So A is your Z pass and B is your stream. So A connects to the Z pass, which is right here. And I will just tidy this up a bit and move this guy here. If you click Control, you can see those yellow dots appear, and then you can create a new point. So, and I want to copy a Z red or green, it doesn't matter which channel. I copy that into this deep depth, where is it? Depth Z pass. So this is the thing I need to do. And now in this stream, we have the Z information. Right, so the next thing I want to do, what did I do? I want to add the fog on top. So to do that, I will use a merge. Merge is A over B. So B is my main stream, and A is my graded. Let's just put the grade here and connect this to here, and then A is my fog layers, which is this. So if I plus them over, plus you need to do here, not over. Where's plus? So I'm adding this onto the background. And also now we have a pretty white background, which we don't want. So I will add a clamp right after the grade. A clamp just means what is the maximum output value I'm allowing to pass on. So the maximum is currently 1, so I'll just dial this one down. And if you check the grade, the Z pass, you can see if I change this value, this is what actually happens. I'm moving the background plane. So I will use something which just connects to the most item in the background, the most item, whatever. Anyways, so this is that. And if I plus them together, this is now what it currently looks. And now I also want to use this fancy explosion as my backplate. So what I did here, I transformed this to here. I color corrected this a bit just to get a bit whiter highlights, and I reformat this. So I will just use this stream, the same one, and I will do A over B, merge A over B. This time A is my master stream and B is my input, my image, which is this one. So now let's see what we got. We have this. And we need to add alpha information to our render, otherwise this won't work. So currently we have not a proper alpha channel. So to do so, I will use the copy node one more time, pressing K. And now I want to copy from the original image, which is my render, from this guy. And just to clean this up, I just move this outside of my beauty stuff. And this is now the alpha channel being piped back onto the image in the back. So if I press A now, you can see the alpha is back in. That was my phone. Anyways, so this is before copying the alpha, and this is now after. So we get a clean alpha. Then we're adding the grade again. I shouldn't merge this with the alpha though. So this should only be, maybe we just do it after, then it's fine. So I just changed the order of connections. So this is now the background behind the image, and now I'm adding the fog on top. So this is now with the fog on top. Right. So let's just disconnect all these guys so it does not confuse you too much. Like so. Right, so this is what we did. So if I wouldn't have added this clamp, you would get a white background. So this is why I did that. So just to get a better depth look. So now the next thing I want to do is, let's just see, there's a ZD focus at the bottom, and I have that. Okay. So the next thing is I will add the ZD focus node, which is your blur node. ZD focus, which ships with Nuke. You can use any other tool as well. It should work the same way. And how this works, you plug in the image into the input here, and then you change, or you can first look through, and then it's important that the depth channel is your Z, has your Z information, which is currently the depth Z because I copied it over from here, from red to depth Z. And then in this node, you get a focal point, and wherever this is, the image is in focus if you have set the values properly. So the math for this, I'm not 100% sure. I mostly just check which works best, and for this case, I use the depth math, and then you can see that it is actually, is it working? It's not updating, definitely. So let's just see what else we have as it for one. So there is something is happening, definitely. And depth, let's just see if I change these. So they don't update. So let's see what I did here in my previous test. Depth results. So it's actually the same thing I did here. It just might be that the depth information is not being accepted properly. So let's just check in here. What do we have? Depth. We definitely piped this in, so it is definitely in the stream. Yeah, and is it still here? So here it's not in anymore. So at this point, when I copy the alpha in, what I'm actually doing, I copy the background in, the depth information is gone. So here's my problem. So how did I solve this here? I think I did this after. Yeah, so here so the image needs to go before every other copies happen. So let's just rearrange this a bit. Sorry for that. So that's the Z, this goes on top. So I just move this down and this goes in here instead. So let's see if this works better now. Right, let's see. Z gets copied, it's in the stream, and now it's still in the stream. So now we should hopefully get it working. Okay, different problems now. Sorry for this, it's a bit messy now. As you can see, I'm not a comper. So the alpha information needs to go before I add the background, otherwise we don't have that information. So this connects here. And now let's see what we get. So alpha is working, background is working, Z gets added on top, we plus the fog, and now let's see if this works now. Exactly, now finally it works. So it's just important that the Z information is being passed through until the Z defocus node. Ideally, you just copy it right after this, and then you should be fine. Which we can do, which makes even more sense to just copy this and make sure it's being added right when you use the Z defocus, which is possibly what I should have done in the first place. Right. This one connects here. Okay, as you can see, I'm not an official comper, so I mostly do trial and error myself. But we didn't cover the color grading yet, so I just wanted to set up the Z defocus, which was also a requested tutorial how to do comp blur, depth of field blur. So wherever I move this focal point now, we get a focused image. So as you can see on this guy, the foreground gets blurry and he's in focus and the background is blurred out. So I'd like to keep focus on the center character, which is him. And so let's see what else we can do. We can view a layer setup, and this is showing which areas are in focus and which are out of focus. So if you change the depth of field, this is the areas which are 100% sharp, and then it blurs out. So the red is foreground blur and the blue is background blur. And then you have the option to display the filter setup, which is the bokeh effect. So you can change this to be bladed to get a more realistic lens blur. And you have the options to, I don't know, add more blades or whatever you want to do. You can add custom shapes. If you create a little image and plug this in here, you can have a custom shape. But we want to see the result. And this is the result. Right, so then you have the option to change the maximum blur and the size of the blur. And you can see the bokeh happening right here. So if I make the size bigger, you can see what's happening. If I change the blade size to be 3, you should see triangles, as you can see there. And 5 is a typical 5-cornered blade. And you see that the foreground is now very blurry as well, and he's full in focus, and we get nice blurred out grass in right in front of the camera. So I kind of like what we have already. And the last comp effect, which should be used really subtly, or really subtle, is the light wrapping. Light wrapping um, is adding how you would phrase it. Light wrapping is a node which adds background information on top of the foreground. I will show you exactly what it does right now. So I create a node called light wrap, and I plug this in here, and I create a new connection here. This is my background stream here on the left, and I connect B with this dot. If I look through this node, you see nothing happens because we don't have any intensity. So if I increase intensity, you see that the color bleeds around the edges from the background image. In this case, it is the explosion. So if I check them together, this is what the result looks like. And now you can change the size. If you really want a sharp edge or a blurred edge, I like to keep it more diffuse going around the corners, and just adjusting the intensity to be really almost not visible, something really soft like this, which just gives us a bit more calm. It just feels more together. Anyways, let's just increase the intensity a bit more. Right. And this is all for now the fanciest tricks I have from the comp nodes. And now let's come back to the grading. So let's say I want to change the color of the specular highlights, but only on the soldiers. So first I need to find the spec pass, which is this one, shuffle 10. Ideally you would rename them properly. So let's add a grade in here. And now you can actually see, if I look through the final result and I change the gain, you can actually add more spec or remove spec, and there's no need for re-render for this. But currently this is affecting the whole image. Like you see, the ground is also being adjusted. So now comes in the material ID, which is this guy. So what I want to do, I want only to grade the red values. So the mask input for the grade connects to the shuffle of the material ID. And if you double click the grade node and choose the mask, currently it's just set to alpha, but I want RGB red, which is just the red as a mask input. And if I go back into the shuffle or into the stream and change the gain now, you can see that only the soldiers change, which is exactly what I want for this. So now let's just change, because it's a yellow background because of the explosion, I want to tint the reflections a bit. So I'm going to the gain, control click on the color wheel thingy, and then you can just use the color temperature slider, which is currently not here, this guy. This is Kelvin value, so the lower you go, the more yellow your reflections go. You see what's happening now? Going from here to here. And this is now before and after, so this is what happened. It's maybe a bit strong, so let's just dial this back down. And also I think it's a bit intense, the overall reflectivity. So something more diffuse. Let's check the final. Without the ZD focus is the most expensive node, so that's why I only view this for the final images. Okay, so the next thing I want to adjust, let's say I want to adjust the color of these guys. So the color is coming from the diffuse, right? And from the SSS. So these will be the two I need to grade. So the first thing, I will create a, let's say just a color correct node. We just use grades for now. So I will use the grade again. And I create a dot for the red channel from the mask material ID here. And I connect the mask here. And I copy this, and I think this was the subsurface, and I paste the grade in here and connect this. So all three grades are only controlled by the red channel. I first need to change them though. And red as well. Right, so nothing changed yet because I didn't do any grades. And if I now control click on the gain and I just multiply it with a different color, you can see that the overall color for the soldiers change. And I can tint them in any color I want. If I check only this node, you can see what's actually happening. So let's say we want, for this tutorial, let's make them a bit more navy blue. I guess something like this, and increase the saturation a bit and increase the value a bit more, like so, from here to here, and then doing a similar thing with the SSS. I like to control click on the wheel again, and now let's change the hue to something else as well. Something blue, light blue. Increase the value. All right, this is my subsurface scattering. So let's see the result. So this is now what I have done with this simple grade from here to here. And this is, and you can see directly the power you get. You can really simply adjust certain elements of your render if you have the proper IDs baked out. And also let's just change the grass color a bit more, which is hopefully just mostly in the diffuse. So this is this grade is currently for the soldiers. I create a new grade. This time I will connect a different, change it to be, I think, green. Yeah, green is the grass. Change the mask to RGB green. And I just want to make them a bit more bright and a bit more yellow as well, like so, from here to here, and it's only affecting the grass again. Okay, this is now my comp, which is before the blur. And the last thing I want to do is adjust the color for the fog. Currently it's white, and I think it should be also tinted into a more warm color, like so. I was just changing the temperature again, right? So this is now with the warm explosions. And let's see what the defocus looks like. Right, full screen, frame 1:1, fit width. Right, as you can see, we have a really good looking blur in the foreground from the grass, and then this guy is in focus, and we see the nice bouquet from the explosions in the back. So let's say we want to control the focal point now. All we have to do is move this guy. Let's say we want to have him in focus, and everything gets updated, and now he is in focus. And you can actually animate these focal points to get a nice, you can maybe zoom in a bit, like so, and then change the focus. It's all really simple to do with these comp effects. So let's make him in focus, the grenade soldier. And you can slightly see the limitation. So if there is a really drastic blur, you can see some edges are not being blurred properly. And this just might be the case because I'm not a real compositing artist. I don't know all the tricks. But for most things, this works out just fine. And yeah, for simple comps, for your renders, for simple animations, I think these workflows are just fine, and you don't need to render depth of field because it's really heavy on current render systems. Yeah, I hope I could show you some tricks I'm currently using in production. Some of them are useful, some of them are taken over by comp people, so I don't need to do them. Yeah, let me know what you think, and thanks again for watching and keeping me motivated by commenting, by liking my videos and sharing them. Thank you very much. Cheers.